special agenda setting meeting of Morrisville Borough Council on Tuesday, November 15th. We have a roll call.
Dave Ravella. Vic Cicero. Here. Fred Kerner.
Present.
Corinne Chronicle.
Here.
Danielle Larison.
Here.
Ted Parker.
Here.
Bill Pepitone.
Here.
Todd Sanford.
Here.
Debbie Smith.
Here.
Councilperson's name is?
Garley St. Cyr. ST.CYR.
He wrote it on his hands.
Yeah.
Both hands, just in case. Just in case I'm
Don't
off
be
on
that
my way here.
impressed.
Okay, I'm going to start this with a special presentation from the EAC, and then we'll follow into public comment. If you want to pass me that sheet there. So the floor is yours, guys.
Oh,
Whenever you like.
Bye.
Good evening, let's get this going first. Hello? Hello? That's better, I think.
Well, it was better.
I think I can even talk loud enough for you. I'm Bill Setzer from the Morrisville Environmental Advisory Council, often referred to as the MEAC. And before I get started on our comments to you tonight, which we prepared, I just wanted to say to everybody, since it's the end of the year, people don't realize how much time and effort you guys put into this, and thank you. It's appreciated. People don't realize not just the 4 or 6 hours you put in at these 2 meetings each month, but all the preparation time. It really adds up, and you're doing all that for the community while they're at home enjoying whatever they enjoy. So that's really something people should realize, and thank you for. And I do, thank you. The reason we're here tonight is basically regarding $32,000 worth of grant money that the EAC would like to bring to the borough to further the project and continue the improvements at the Morrisville Riverfront Preserve. And we intend to do that through our own efforts and not at a cost to the borough. Let me read my statement, and I can give you a copy of the statement at the end of the presentation. The Coastal Zone Management Grant application for continued restoration efforts at the Morrisville Riverfront Preserve has already been submitted. Most of you probably know that. The project cost the cost is estimated at $32,000, and this grant will cover half of that amount. The CZM grant period is October 2017 through March 2019. So it's basically like a two-year ongoing project that it'll be funding. The Delaware Riverkeeper Network has submitted a proposal to manage the project with the MEAC acting as a coordinator during the CZM grant period. Plans are for continued invasive species treatments and eradication and public outreach activities. The MEAC is requesting that the borough also apply for a county municipal open space grant of $16,000 to cover the needed 50% match. As in the past, the MEAC will complete and present the application on behalf of the borough. The Open Space Board is meeting on November 30th, and they will place this on the agenda for a presentation of the concept. If the concept is approved, an application must be submitted by December 31st. This process requires a resolution from council supporting the application. The MEAC is providing, and in fact has already sent to several members, Mr. Subi included, the resolution language as prescribed by the county program. This county open space grant funding is essential to match the coastal zone management grant funding, which will carry the improvement project through 2019. We ask the borough to act upon this resolution in November, since the timing to secure this county open space funding is very short. That's the end of our comment, and I just would like to ask you, is this something that we could discuss and resolve tonight, or will we need to come back to the regular meeting next week? just whether you'll do a resolution so that we can bring more money to the borough on this.
What I heard was you're doing all the work, we just passed
We
the
are.
resolution. I'm okay with that.
I have no problem with that at all.
But we don't like to be presumptive that you
Yeah, yeah,
have
I
to
think
do
it's
it,
great.
we're asking you to do it.
And I think we can put it on for, I'd put it on 10D right now.
Okay, that's good. And at least one of us will come to the meeting on Monday to see how it's going or answer further questions. Does anybody have a question on the projects or on the funding, the matching aspects of it, or anything right now that either myself or Debbie Colgan might be able to answer for you?
Pretty good. How about the rest of council?
Okay, well, I'm glad, I guess it's pretty straightforward, and I'm glad I've been able to present it to you tonight, and we hope for your endorsement and resolution next week.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you,
a
Debbie, and
lot.
the rest of the EAC.
And you do have the resolution language that's.
Yeah, I saw it in the box.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a nice
Thanks again.
Thanksgiving.
You too, Bill.
Jane, you're the only one on the list?
I'm the only one tonight. Okay, well, first, welcome to our new junior council person. I don't know, Mayor Ravello, are you going to officially swear her in tonight, or do that at the Monday regular meeting?
Well, I wasn't asked to, so I don't have an oath of office or anything.
Well, then I would respectfully request that council consider that. It was done last year, just part of the program,
Yeah.
that you be officially sworn in by the
Yeah.
I
mayor.
don't think I've ever.
No, that never happened.
So, that's always a nice thing
You
to
have
do.
to.
That's a good experience, though, if you want to start that tradition.
Well, I can refer to the PSCB
Yeah,
website.
yeah, I just don't
It's
think we've
right
done
here.
it.
Jail
Anyway, makes it more official, and council deals with so many difficult things, it's nice when there's a warm, fuzzy, positive thing they can all share in. I'm here to talk about the proposed ordinance that was advertised on November 6th regarding the sanitation rate. There are some positive things. I have some real problems with the procedures. I think it was the cart before the horse. Preparing the borough budget is a very complicated and arduous task, and you need to start somewhere. And certainly to start with the sanitation portion of the budget, try to determine the cost and then back into what's a reasonable fee, is certainly something that's done, and that is on the shoulders of our borough manager. But I'm not sure, given that council has not, at any public meeting, and I've been here, discussed what the proposed costs are for the 27 sanitation portion of the budget and how the fees are determined. How that came to be advertised as a determined rate, who authorized this to happen? Because council usually authorized, preparation and advertising of the ordinance to be done by the solicitor. And how could you know the rate is when you haven't even looked at the, I don't know if you've gotten the budget, you've looked at it, but it hasn't been discussed to determine if in fact that is the rate that needs to be charged. A $70 jump seems to be a bit much. I mean, I looked at last year's budget, and when I did come down to get a copy of it, I did learn, and thank you, Mr. Stubbe, that they thought the contract for next year was increasing in the range of $50-some thousand. Thereabout, I'm not sure what the increase in the contract was. I just think council needs to look at all the sources of revenues. You are doing a very aggressive collection program for delinquencies. In the past budget, you hoped for $120,000. I'm hoping that you'll collect a lot more than that. But what's the rush? I mean, this is all done when you approve the budget. You know that you've then set what the sanitation rate is. You have to do the ordinance every year to set the rate. And that's all tied with other ordinances. So I'm not sure why that had to be done in November. I'm really concerned that you're setting a rate that hasn't been discussed and finalized by the Borough Council. And then it was set to the solicitor. So I mean, you may be doing it again.
I don't see a rate on here, though.
I have a copy of the proposed ordinance that sets the fee at $289.25.
It's just not on our agenda here. We're passing the ordinance to include the fee on the taxes, but
But you've identified a tax amount in the ordinance. That's my question. How could you do you need to do things about the tax collector, absolutely. But the copy of the ordinance was published, did have the rate, under the now therefores, the first one, is the fee is $289.25. I mean, God love you, Mr. Subi, you were so precise, it's like, God, I wish you could drop the 25 cents. So it's like, how could that rate have been put in this particular ordinance? Another question I would like to call to your attention, if you read that, the fee, $289.25 per year for each residential unit, I believe that would be apartments, and place of business in the borough. Now, that reads to me as all those categories are going to be charged the same fee now, $289.25. In the past, we've had a separate rate for the 78 commercial units, and I will admit, I did not come down and look at the contract to see how many bags of garbage those units get. I know we as residents get 10 per collection. And I know it was one of the things that stuck on me in the past about, do you need a professional rate, or do the commercials get more trash? If everybody gets the same amount of cans and bags, then the rate should be the same. So I actually was looking at that as a positive, that they were being charged the same. There are only 78 of them in the borough, as opposed to the 3,008 residences and residential units. But again, if council, again, when you discuss this, decides that you need to have a higher rate for the commercials because of whatever additional they get, I believe that as a fee, as a rate, should also be in the ordinance, which it's not. So, I mean, I'm fine if you charge everybody that particular amount, but I'm not supporting that the ordinance was done. It seems like the cart was before the horse. You didn't discuss it, it went to the solicitor, there's a fee, or it shouldn't be a big fee, it's only, 1.5 pages. So I would ask that unless you can have all your budget meetings before next Monday night and determine that you are going to stay with that rate, you may not be able to act on this Monday night. Notes here.
I think that's doable.
And I don't know if there's any legal, I'm not aware of any legal reason that has to be done in November in advance of even having your preliminary budget done. There's a whole lot of ordinances y'all have to do in December. Regarding sanitation, the revenues come into the general fund, and there's a section of the general fund which is the expenses. I've advocated for several years that you create a special fund like you do. You have a capital reserve fund for heavy equipment vehicles. The mill all comes into the general fund, and then it gets moved over to that. I think maybe it's time that you take the revenues that come in from sanitation, from these fees, delinquencies that you collect, and then move that into the fund the same way as you did the mill for the heavy equipment, and then pay that out of sanitation. Because it is a fee, it's required by law that you charge a fee that only covers the cost for that particular service. You cannot charge a fee that subsidizes other costs to the borough, in this case probably in the general fund, because this is where this money is deposited. It's against the law to do that. So what comes in for sanitation can only be used towards the sanitation cost. So again, it's another reason when you get your budgets to see what the projected expenses are for sanitation versus what you're seeing as revenue from those couple of lines, and you have to kind of pull it out because it's not separate. Not many of you remember a former councilman named John Engelberger. I know Mr. Cicero does, and some others around here. He's a bit of a gadfly.
I remember a lot of council people.
I know you do, Victor, but he was a special one who did probably send 30 faxes every night. And he questioned sanitation, and when he did at that time, I thought we had answers that could have, justified and explained where all the costs were going. But the thing is to be sure that the fee you charge everyone does not cover any costs that are not direct to sanitation. Now, what you put in the sanitation, that's all identified, but you can't use this fee to supplement. God, I hate to use the police as an example, but they are an important function. So
I think the law states that you can't charge the resident sanitation anything above as you would consider as profit.
right.
So
And if
we're
you're
not-
collecting more revenue for sanitation than you need for sanitation, that is in effect a profit in
I
sanitation,
disagree. I believe
But
that's
we
part
will
of our
get to that.
sanitation budget.
part of the sanitation budget. Right, and if your cost and your revenue for your sanitation budget, absolutely right, of whatever is
Yeah,
your
we
sanitation.
can't have a surplus.
But you can't have a surplus, and you can't use a fee for sanitation to cover other costs that are not part of the sanitation budget and not related to sanitation. Right, and that's, we agree, I know we agree, and that's what I'm trying to be clear, because sometimes the argument we had with Mr. Engelberger was because all those revenues are in general fund, and then you've got a separate part of sanitation, that you had to look and show them what came in specifically for sanitation, and then what went out. So I just want to, caution you that several years ago under a previous manager, there were revenues of excess in the sanitation budget, and then the next year that was able to be reduced. So whatever we need to pay, we pay. We just need to be sure that everything is allocated where it has to be. I'll talk about that. Okay. Need to decide, as I already mentioned, if it's one fee for all, and kind of talk about the fair share. Just want to clarify, fair share is charged to those individuals that do not use the borough sanitation services. That's why it's a fair share, because there's administrative costs, particularly in terms of recycling and tracking all that information to submit to the state. We pay our sanitation fee, we don't pay fair share. That's for those that have some other collection. Usually some of these apartments that are larger than 4, or businesses that have those bigger dumpsters. I think that was it. I read the portion regarding using the tax collector. I'm glad to see that. Again, being a layperson, I need the language to the solicitor, and I know we have to get that in the ordinance. So again, if you can finalize it by Monday, and the solicitor can confirm that you can set this date and memorialize it in an ordinance before you pass your budget, I hope we'll clarify that next week. Thank you.
Thanks. No one else for public comments? We'll take a look at our draft agenda then. Under special presentations on Monday, we have Peter Place finally discussing the audit. Then we'll have more hearing in public. Approval of minutes. Don't we have minutes to approve? I thought I saw October's minutes. And I saw an issue with that, because Todd abstained from Sanford Motors, but the vote on that reads 7-0 with Todd abstaining
That
from
was,
everything.
financials, not the minutes.
No, but the minutes from October, I just saw that Todd,
Well, I would pay them, I paid the bills, but.
right, but you just abstained from that one bill, not the entire set of bills. We'll have our reports as usual.
Are we adding 7F, the junior council person's
Yep,
report back?
time again. Are you prepared to do your first report? Not today, will you be on Monday?
Yeah.
Good catch.
Are we adding to special presentations for the mayor's swearing?
Yeah, I suppose we should.
We've never done it before, I don't know.
But do we want to? I think it's a,
I think it would be great for very experienced staff.
does the mayor mind?
No, I'd be happy to do it. If that's council's pleasure. I'm more than happy to do it.
Same as we get sworn in?
That's,
That's what it would have to be a different language. I'll if I'll defer to this.
She doesn't know
Make
bold.
sure that that's not.
Well, we make something fun of
I
it.
swear third grade.
Yes, he has a sample.
So, why don't you contact the TSAB and see if it's done and see if they have language for it.
Okay, under finance, we have 8A, paying the bills. We have our soft bid, 8B. 8C is this motion to pass the ordinance to include the fee for the removal of garbage and refuse within Morrisville Borough for the year 2017 on the annual real estate tax bill. Is that what we advertised?
It's one of them.
And we're fine with the rate?
Well, in your budget, you can see Actually, we're actually showing a deficit because of last year.
You haven't shown that, I don't see that.
We're looking at that tomorrow.
We'll see it
right?
tomorrow night, I'm sure. I think it's on the budget. We'll see that tomorrow. Moving on to new business, we have a motion to pass a resolution adopting the hazard mitigation plan. A motion to pass an application resolution for the municipal open space program, approving filing of an application for funds under the municipal space program. Was that yours? So we don't need a 10D. If we have that 10B, I'm assuming it's referring to the coastal zone management. It reads on this, it's a motion to pass the application resolution for the Bucks County Municipal Open Space Program, approving a filing of an application for funds under the municipal space program.
Right, that's we already submitted the coastal zone management proposed grant application, right?
Yeah, I've seen
Did
it.
you do a resolution on that already?
I don't know if that's this on the agenda, and we just have to
No,
move the
yeah.
wording around.
The open space one is to what I was just talking about, which will be the match
16,000,
for
right?
the other one.
So that is the CZ, and we don't need a 10B then.
Yes.
So you put that into place in 10B then?
Well, 10B is just kind of a placeholder.
We'll stay at 10B, correct?
Yeah, it'll stay there, we'll just fill in the proper wording to get that. So then 10C is a motion to direct the solicitor to prepare and advertise a change to the towing ordinance from a 2-mile radius, well, kind of half radius, to a 5-mile half
And
radius.
actually, I'd ask you guys to consider passing that tonight. You're not passing the ordinance, you're passing to start the process. That way we can get it done in a week, you could vote on the ordinance change. Otherwise, it's gonna be another month. So just because of the time constraints. This basically is asking you guys to tell Sean to change the word from 2.5 to 5 miles and advertise. Once that's done, then next week council can vote on that.
Do we feel comfortable doing that?
It's
It's a pretty simple change.
It's very simple,
But-
and it's a necessity. We have 3 tow companies that we currently.
I was kind of shocked we couldn't win the Jersey. So it's really a half radius, we're really limited in
Yeah,
our
and the problem is,
geographic.
currently, we're experiencing trouble with some of the outfits. One
Within 2
of the
miles.
owners is sick, he doesn't want to be taken off the list, but he just physically can't do it right now. And we don't want to make it a very large radius, because that would hurt the residents, and they'd have to track their car down. So we think if we just make it 5 miles, that'll open up some falls, and that'll really actually help everybody stay within the ordinance.
If we vote on that, we'll need to open public comment again, I believe.
Do you have to vote on it tonight?
Well,
We would have to direct,
to start the process
direct the solicitor to change the wording.
and advertise, and then next week. we can vote on
So
it.
that's what the motion would read, if we were going to do it today.
Otherwise, it's gonna be a month if you wait till the,
Right.
if you start going through the meetings.
So we'll pull this off the agenda altogether
Well-
for Monday if we vote on it tonight.
You would change it to.
And this is-
For the actual ordinance change.
Okay. That's enough time to advertise?
I think it is, if, as long as you let the solicitor know.
Now, where's the center point of the radius initiated at?
I'd imagine it's from the edges of town, but I don't know.
Edge, or
No, I
you
thought it
say
was the police
radius, pick
department.
a point.
From the police department
Oh,
to,
usually from the police department.
from
Usually.
Borough Hall.
We need to move the police department.
More center.
If we lose all the Jersey,
They're probably central anyhow. This building's probably central.
It's only 2 square miles.
central, north, south, but I don't think these woods.
Even if you move the department, it's not gonna really change.
Well, yeah, well, you're the one,
The
not
location of these
Rio.
companies.
I don't want to get too exact.
You're the most uncentral one here. You're all the way over there.
What do you mean I'm anyway?
Yeah.
So what are we doing now?
I'm working up a motion.
Well, that motion that's on there is good, that's why I
Yeah.
asked.
Oh, okay, all right,
I
so
asked
never
for this
mind.
to be up the next meeting, that's why.
All right, so you have to open it up again.
So the motion that we're going to vote on tonight is a motion to direct the solicitor to prepare and advertise a change to the towing ordinance, number 879, chapters 412-2, from a 2-mile radius to a 5-mile radius. And now I will open public comment, should anyone wish to comment on that.
It's fine, I heard the discussion for it. My question is just technical in terms of timing from authorizing tonight to when the solicitor can get it into the newspaper. Is that, it used to be a minimum of, was it 7 days? Just clarify the number of days between the advertisement
Well,
and
I'm
the.
gonna leave that up to the solicitor to make sure he
Right, but my thinking, if Monday night doesn't give you enough time for the legal, you can't count the day of your meeting as that minimum number of days. If you, sometime after next week, having additional budget meetings, which are advertised as special meetings, you could do it on one of those days, and then you
Exactly,
wouldn't
that's
have
why I
to
wanna
wait.
start the process.
Right, right, so if you can't do it Monday, you may have their options to do it at a special budget meeting, and then move it along before the other one. And the ordinance, I think, removed the amount they were able to charge, right?
There was a change to that fairly recently.
Right, because you'd be trying to get the money amounts out of the ordinances, unless you need like sanitation, so you don't have to do an ordinance.
And the borough doesn't collect that fee, that's the company.
Right, that's what the towing, that's what the fee that towing companies charge, because you need to be sure you're competitive. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion is set, if anyone would like to make it.
I make that motion.
Zach has made it and Bill has seconded it. Any discussion among council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Was
Dick
that
and
you,
Bill.
Bill, second?
That's all we have on our agenda at the moment. If anyone would like to add anything else, take any suggestions. I've gotten a request from the office for meeting dates for 2017. If all subcommittees feel they're working well and the schedules that they have in place are good, we'll continue
Talk
with
about
that.
for next year?
For next year, yes.
Well, I think we should add, 2 individuals to the vacant properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One person's not enough.
Add 2 more
Well,
people
actually,
from council or 2 more
somebody,
people at large?
I was told that, Mr. Doretto was also on that board, and I overlooked him, and I didn't, he's not on the list. So
Oh, I knew he was on here.
Do you know anyone else who's on it?
It's, usually it's the mayor who deal with it, and the borough manager, and I'll be in council personally. And I guess the president can sit on it, right, like any committee.
It's RDA,
Yes.
it's not the president.
Yeah.
RDA was at.
Yeah, they were there.
The
Well,
planning commission.
right.
It's 5.
We need bodies.
Okay. So is Mr. Doretto still on, or should we
Well,
appoint
he
him?
says he is.
How is he?
I just don't know how long it's been since we appointed someone to the vacant property review board.
It's 1
His
year.
term be the same.
It's
as
1 year?
I would imagine.
It's a 4-year term.
How many years ago was it? Like,
Well, I
It
know-
goes, it goes to the end, the
Tell
council
him, like,
changes at the
son-
end of his term.
I don't know if his, it's the same or not. And I know I'm on my second term.
we don't even reach one person, so.
So and who would our next person be? Would they be anyone at large or someone from a board?
It would be at your discretion.
You have to check to see what their terms are when they're appointed by council.
You don't add that to the meeting.
No, I think we need to get,
Do a little research.
well, we need to get applications before we appoint them. But all of the subcommittees are still functioning well? And then we had 3 new ones this year, are they okay? Should we,
We're still doing another month, we don't know yet.
so this month was canceled for beautification. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Maybe
November,
it's fall.
December, we canceled. It's too hectic with the holidays, and plus we're gonna be doing the decorating next weekend, so.
That's beautification. It's good
Yeah, but that's separate from,
Yeah.
separate.
Right. That's beautification.
Yeah,
Decorating.
beautification, yeah.
Oh, you're doing, the beautification committee's doing decorating? When's that?
I put it in the, I sent it to Virginia, I put it in everybody's box. Sent it
Oh, I have a
flyer.
wedding, so maybe I just kind of
Sent
glanced
it
over.
flyer.
On the
It's
channel,
on TV, it's.
was it put on the channel?
And
Yeah,
then
we sent
welcome
it
to
to
join
you.
us. We'll be decorating.
Walk out and see it.
Down the horse bus.
Seems like I always have weddings, whatever week in February.
Weekend after Thanksgiving,
Oh, wait, no.
26th.
I have one question.
Sure.
I got something from the county for, I'm confused. There's, how much money is left at the end of, the year for the open space? Was 102.6?
For the other open space?
Yeah, they sent a separate, we have several things going on. We have the one that went in for CDBG at 102.9, but then they sent a separate paper. that I think this was something else. If there's any other monies that's left out of our open space, we have to use that by the end of this year, right? So we have to have something proposed to them, or it what, goes back in the funds and extensions after this year, correct? That's what I
Well-
took from that paperwork.
Yeah, well, I believe that it was, we're in for what we requested.
But there's,
It was 202,
Yeah, but
that
that's-
counts as that.
that's under CDBG, that's not.
Well, it's still under the open space funds.
So it's out of our fund, is what you're saying, that is where that's being pulled? So what I'm trying to get at is, do we have money left over at the end here?
From the matching grant funds?
That the open space has allocated from
We
ours.
had originally, when we did MRA, $297,000 in our open space allotment. And out of that, we used 202.6 for MRA.
124.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, is that what this is? This-
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at, was there any?
Do we have to put anything on the agenda Monday for MRI?
No, I'm waiting to hear. I got a little nervous today when I read the paper about the allocations of funds, but
I didn't get the paper. What did it say?
it was just about the open space and that they allocated funds out, and basically what Debbie's saying is, you know, they're coming to the end of the, the end of 2016, I mean 16, they're not accepting no more applications for open space funding. Which was open in 2014, but next year they'll probably have a new program or whatever, so it's not like it's the end, it's just that money that they dedicated to
Did
the
it
bus county.
Say how the other municipalities fared with their allocations, because I think we did pretty well here in using.
We didn't get anything yet, so.
But we,
What did we use it for?
we used it down the riverfront
Yeah,
preserve.
What are we doing? We did some engineering.
Actually, you're
studies.
correct, that was
What else?
part of their grant too.
The original one we had came from open space for the riverfront preserve.
But I don't know how built out boroughs and townships were able to use it.
Well, actually, what Debbie's suggesting, I also actually backed up today with an email to the county stating that, you know, is there any room for us in there? I didn't hear anything by the end of today, but there is, you know, we'll move forward on.
So they have a meeting come up, do you have to attend that meeting, for when they're gonna do the reading of that stuff?
I haven't been told anything yet, so I'm waiting, keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully, due to the fact that the school board is aggressively keeping us in line here, I'm just hoping that we could get something official before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so we've depleted ours, that's why I wanna make sure we've used it.
Provided we get this. Anything else for the agenda? I'll accept any motion to adjourn that anyone wants to give.
Motion to adjourn.
Ted made it.
I'll second.
You want to second it?
Check.
All right, Ted and Vic, all those in favor say aye. And I will see everyone here, with the exception of perhaps Darlene tomorrow for budget.
Oh, so, how do you want, do we have to put your name up?
Okay,
To make sure.